Hi class, good afternoon. This is Professor Barry Brennan. I am talking to my small group communication class. And today we are going to talk about research. For some of you, this might be scary. Research can be scary. For others of you, you might really like it. I happen to really like it myself. In fact, I get so into it that I forget what I just want to know everything. I'm kind of a knowledge hog. And so I start going down the research tunnel and I'm down there for a long time. And so if you're like me, you got to pull it back and then not do so much research and get to the work of the project part rather than just doing the research. So you're going to want to find out in your group, who's kind of like me, who's a person that's like really good at getting the task done, right? And use those talents, as we've been talking about in the small group, use the talents that you have and be able to acknowledge who you are in the group and what you're really good at. So if you're really good at researching and love that stuff, give that task to that person. Okay, let's get to it. We're going to go straight to the PowerPoint. PowerPoint is right there. Okay. So what do we mean research in the small group? What are we talking about, right? We're not talking about this one person doing the research. We're talking about a whole bunch of people involved in the task of doing the research. And how do we even do this? Well, the first thing is you got to get ready for it, right? I got old school paper and pencil. For you, it might be, I'm kind of an old school paper and pencil person when I do research. I'll write things down. That's because I'm old school. But maybe you're just going to use your laptop and your computer, and that's how you're gonna copy paste, or you're going to. I know when I was doing my graduate work, when I was doing so much research, sometimes I got tired of writing and I did copy paste. It was just easier that way, and just to leave it in terms of notes. But you're going to want to take notes. You're going to want to be ready to write that stuff down, and it's going to take a lot of brain power. So if you need lots of brain food, get that ready. Get your snacks ready. Get all that stuff ready. Get your candy and your chocolate and whatever it is that you need. You're going to want your brain tuned up and ready to go. Okay. I like to call this creating a research plan. You need to know where you're going, right? So you're going to need to know what your assignment says. And I'm not going to talk about the assignment in this class or in this lecture right now, because I'm just going to talk about researching in general. And then later on, we'll apply the assignment. When I give you the written assignment, you'll understand how to apply it. But you're going to need to have a plan of how you're going to go about this. So where do we begin with all that? You might want to start with Googling it. So you all have a bunch of different topics. Let's say your topic is poverty. If you Google poverty, my guess is one of the first things you're going to get is probably the definition of what poverty is. You're going to get a bunch of organizations that respond to poverty. You might get things like how many people are poor in Fresno County. Actually, might even like a newspaper article might come up regarding that. Google is just a start. Okay, there's this wonderful database that you have in college. It's wonderful. They pay a lot of money. Your tuition pays for it. It's a beautiful thing. They pick and choose, and in fact, you can pretty much trust the sources there because they choose sources that are credible for the purpose of using it in research papers. Okay? Not all of it, but a lot of it. So your library database there is really an amazing thing. In class, we will spend a little bit of time when we meet, and I'll show you how to get to that library database. Periodicals and newspapers, online and paper. Now everything's online. There's hardly anything on paper anymore. I should really update update that piece right there. But using periodicals and newspapers, you're looking at a social issue that's affecting the Central Valley community, right? So you are going to want to look at what's the journalism sources? What are they talking about? What are they saying about it? Magazines, peer-reviewed journals, we'll talk about that too, and you'll get an idea of what that is when we meet in class. When we talk about how to use the library database, I'll show you what a peer-reviewed journal is. Let me just give you a little bit background. Basically, it's an article written for an academic or scholarly journal. Here's an example. I happen to have them right here. This is from, the journal is Health Communication. It's right up here. I know you can't probably see it, okay? And on that, let's see, it's volume 27, and the pages of this article is 439 to 448. So this is how long this article is. The name of the article is Mother-Daughter Communication About Sex, the Influence of Authoritative Parenting Style. So this is actually an article I might use in another class I teach. So this is a peer-reviewed journal, meaning people who write for this, they submit it for publication. They get reviewed by their peers. Their peers are people that are academics, scholars in colleges. They could be in four-year universities, could be in junior colleges, but they're people at the same education level or higher, and they look at this and they review it. They review it to make sure the style is correct. They review it to make sure that the information is correct. They review it for the credibility of it, right? Are they using the research right? Can they fact check their research? Is it written to the standards of that journal that is published? There's all kinds of stuff. And in the back of these peer-reviewed journals, which is a beautiful thing, is they always have a bibliography. Those of you love to call it a works cited, but a bibliography is a list of the sources they used in their article. You're going to need that for your projects. In this case, it's written in APA. It's called references. They have pages and pages of references for this. The beautiful thing about this in peer-reviewed articles is if you find one that's really interesting, you can go back and look at their sources, because these same sources will reference the same thing that this article was about. So it's another way actually to research. I love this way of researching. So now you know what that is. All right. How to research a library database. Let's check this out for a minute. So here are some examples of the databases that are actually in your college. EBSCO, Fresno Bee, JustStore, ProQuest. There's more than that, but these are ones that we trust. And how do you go about when you do that research? Well, you're going to want to put in, then I'll ask you to put in keywords or phrases, right? So if you're looking for poverty, maybe put poverty and then you put California Central Valley as your second keyword or search word. You want to be flexible, meaning sometimes if you put too much specificity, it'll limit what you can see. Again, this will make sense when we go over this in class, okay? And you also have the ability in the search, when you're in one of these databases, in the search engine of this database, you have the ability to limit the scope of the search. So how wide and how far. You can limit the time period. You can limit it to academic only rather than everything. And you can limit to what kind of, whether you want to use journals or newspapers or same as periodicals or magazines. You can put limits on how you find stuff so you don't get like, have, 80,000 hits. I'm exaggerating. Let's say 2,000 hits. And you can narrow it down little by little into like 125, okay, or 15. All right, we're at 9 minutes right now. Another great way, which is a new cool way to research, is use a hashtag. When people hashtag things, if you don't already know this, it gets hashtag, that hashtag goes with all the other hashtags that's related to that. And you could actually find, not necessarily that's just a way into research. Oftentimes researchers are now, like even in articles like the one I was talking about, and this is too old to be hashtagged. It's from, what is the year of this article? I'm not seeing it. I think it's 2011. Yeah. So I think this is too old to be hashtag, but in newer articles, they're hashtagging now. So you can actually find academic articles that have been hashtagged and find that information. So it is another way to actually do research, which is kind of cool. All right. The what questions you should be asking, and this is actually directly from your textbook, and I thought it was actually a really incredible way of thinking about something. As a group, you want to ask yourself, all these questions apply. These ones at the bottom, you're not at the solution yet, you're just looking at the problem, but these are the things you want to ask yourself. What is the problem? Take time to decide as a group, defining what the problem is. Be clear on that. Okay, what does the problem affect? Who's affected by this problem? Who's affected by poverty? Literally, not just poor people. Who's affected? If you don't know, this is also like a literal thing that you can talk about as a group. Are people of a certain color more affected? Right? Is there a certain age group that's more affected? Is there a certain part of the United States where people are more affected? Okay. What is the question of policy? Meaning, what kind of policy do we have in place in terms of if we're looking at poverty? What kind of help do we have? That's what we mean by policy, right? So we have WIC, right? Women who don't have money, who lack economic support and need help for feeding their children. Okay, we have that. We have food stamps. We have welfare, right? There are certain things that we have for people that don't have enough money to take care of themselves. Okay, what is the nature of the problem? What do I mean? What is the nature of, what is it? Like, what is the bottom line about poverty? What is the nature of it? What does it do to people? Okay, what causes the problem? What really causes poverty? You don't have, there's not one answer, folks. It's something you're going to need to think about. How serious is the problem? This is where you get stats and data. What are the facts? How serious is it? How badly are we affected by poverty in Fresno County, in Kings County, in Madera County, in Tulare County? How badly are we affected by it? What is going to happen if we don't solve this problem? Right? What's the likelihood? These are kinds of where you make projections. What kind of solutions have we already tried? Well, we do have solutions in place, right? Solutions like ways to pay for your food. They're not solutions about anything about paying for your rent, but they're definitely solutions about people having a way to eat. Notice that, okay? Because I'm talking about poverty right now, just as an example. So you have something to so we can just have something to hang these ideas on. And then what are the constraints for a workable solution? What 5 solutions that satisfy your criteria? These are the kind of questions you want to ask later on, not right now. You want to focus on the first 6 right there. Like, how serious is the problem? What causes the problem? What does the problem affect? What is the question of policy? What is the nature of the problem? Okay. Other topics that you've talked about, climate crisis. What is climate crisis? Define it. Right? Or climate change. I'd rather use climate crisis because I think it's a crisis. Or you could talk about the difference between the word change and crisis and the language around it. There's so much to say about all these things. Like, there's a new word for poverty, food insecurity, right? So this is the beginning of what the questions you should be asking yourself. And you want to take some time with this. Now, this is going to be part 1 of research. We're going to go to part 2 in a minute. I'm going to stop here and we'll pick up on the next slide.